Hello everybody, sorry for the late start. Welcome to the Video Game Collecting Panel. I'm Carey Martell. I'm a game journalist from OriginalGamer.com, also an affiliate with Machinima.com. I have a YouTube partner channel through them. This is 8-Bit Eric.
What's up guys, how's it going? How's everybody's day going? It's hot outside, right? Yeah, I like this building a lot more than the one at the gym, I gotta tell you that.
Yes.
Thanks for coming and checking us out. We had a panel this morning too. We had a video game journalism panel, and it was an early panel, so it wasn't really, I'm glad y'all came. There was only like a couple of people.
Yeah, it started like right at 11, so a lot of people were still getting their passes and stuff, so it was kind of small.
Like I've been doing YouTube videos for about 2 years. I'm still kind of a newbie. I'm not a partner yet, but I mostly do retro reviews and pickups, stuff like that. But yeah, and I also collect too. So
He does have a monetized account.
So
YouTube sees promise.
So I take everybody in here. I take everybody in here either already collects or is interested in collecting. How long has everybody in here been collecting for the most part?
Since about 8 years ago.
8 years.
It's actually about 20 years.
Well, you know what my mistake was? I had all the cool stuff when I was a kid, but then you reach that age and you're like, I want the Nintendo 64, and your parents are like, oh, well, you have the Super Nintendo, you don't need that. And you're like, well, get rid of it.
Yep.
And then you never get that same game again.
I regret trading in my SNES and my cartridges to knock $100 off my first PS2, but I was broke at the time. Even though I could get the games I want on virtual console, because I've been gaming since the original NES era. I was in middle school on that.
My other biggest regret is not keeping the boxes for anything that I had. So, but this guy has a freaking deluxe NES with Rob, complete box with the styrofoam, all the inserts, all the posters.
I had that since I was a kid, actually, too.
So yeah, that's his NES, the one that he opened.
I actually had the opposite problem. I retained all the stuff I had when I was a kid, and I had this huge collection. The mistake I made was selling it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the value of it was. I think I sold it for somewhere around $4,000 on eBay bit by bit. But now I'm trying to kill it.
See, the major problem is that us collectors, it's getting hard now because everybody wants to jump in the retro video gaming bandwagon, and that's where part of like why you have to, the first thing that I think of like when you want to collect is you got to decide what you're going to collect for. Some people do it just for fun. Some people do it for the nostalgia value, which is what I do, and then some people do it just to sell the stuff right away. Like they get a game for cheap and then they mark it up. So basically you got to decide what you want to do. For me, it's fun and nostalgia, but like I mentioned, it's getting a little bit more difficult because, when you collect for nostalgia, you get the system that you grew up with. And me, it's the NES, no matter what. And the games for that are starting to get a little pricey. They're not necessarily hard to find. You can find them like at any retro, like Game Over Games, flea markets, everything. But you start seeing games for like $25. Like, there's no reason why Super Mario Brothers 3 has to be $25 in my
There is a
opinion.
reason, actually. It's called demand.
Yeah, that's the thing, though.
How it works is that anything that was that came out like 20 years ago, 3 years ago, for kids, it's going to be collectible. Is this even on?
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
Oh, okay. So anything that came out, when you were a kid, if someone was a kid, now they're an adult, they've got some spare money, they're probably not married. They're going to be trying to recapture their childhood. It doesn't matter what it is.
And they don't care what the price is.
He tried to rebuy all his old G.I. Joes. When I say G.I. Joes, I mean the really big ones, the original models that came out. He tried to buy all that stuff back up when I was a kid, and he was my age. And now it's my generation buying up their video game stuff. So, and that's for all you. I guess there's not a lot of younger people out there, but the stuff that's coming out right now, buy it, put it away, and it will at least retain its value.
Yeah, the more retro it is, the harder it is to collect, and then also you got to factor in how you want to collect it. I just get the games loose, but there's people who like to have everything down to the T, the box, the little inserts, the little foam, the little stickers that came with it, and like I bought an Earthbound a couple years ago, and I didn't get it complete. I just got it loose, and that alone was $90.
I sold Earthbound for $30 a couple years ago.
Was it in like
Question?
I finally came to bought a Wii at a pawn shop for $74. are you telling me that that's going to be worth something in about 10 years?
It will.
Everything generally is worth something eventually. What's up?
It'll be worth more if it has a bunch of virtual console games on it too.
My Earthbound was decent. It was like just everything was. The only thing that was missing was the box, the manual, and the strategy guide. Yeah, pretty much. Like he just mentioned, obviously right now buying the newer systems is a lot easier. For example, you can find PlayStation 2 games everywhere, and they're cheap. And what I recommend is you get those right now because I bet you within 5 years.
No, two.
Actually, yeah, maybe about 2, 3. They're gonna be overpriced. Like GameCube, all of a sudden, like I swear, in the past year, you can't find a GameCube game with a jack. And
I'd say about like 3, 4 at tops. You could find copies of Final Fantasy VII for PS1. Well, then greatest hit releases, not the black label original versions, $10. Now it doesn't matter what it is, like $60, $80, and that is by no means a rare game. Jeez.
I mean, if it reaches greatest hits, that means there's thousands of them that were bought,
Yeah,
right? So that means
there's
thousands of them out there. I guess since retro is becoming mainstream now, I guess the whole like misconception is just because it's old, it's valuable, or just because it's old, it's rare. When that's not really the case. And I had a lot of bad, I don't want to say deals where you think you're getting a good deal, and then like literally, like I'll want a game for like months, and I cave in, buy it, and then I swear, like not even that same week, I walk somewhere and I see it for like $3 when I just spent like 20 on it.
Another example is Atari 2600 games. Like I'd say like 99% of them are not worth more than $1. Honestly, there are millions of those cartridges, or at least there used to be. I don't know now, but there's still a lot because that was like $1 billion industry.
Well, for example, Goodwill, probably until like a couple years ago, they were good about finding, used games. You can go and get a NES game for $2, but I just went in like the other week and I swear everything was like $6 or more. And what makes me mad about Goodwill is everything's donated there in the first place. So they're getting the stuff for free, then they're marking it up. That's like worse than eBay almost, in my opinion. But like, I mean, you're gonna have bad experiences collecting no matter what. You just gotta keep searching because you never know, right? The pawn shop right here might have, Nintendo World Championships for all we know, and someone's turning it in right now.
If you want to buy games from the Goodwill, go to the one that's in Austin. They have specifically a video game museum exhibit, and then they have like an electronics store. And you can find not just like video game stuff cheaply that isn't auctionable. You just buy it individually, and it's like maybe $5, $10 tops. You buy whole consoles that way, Dreamcast, 64s, all kinds of stuff.
Which Goodwill in Austin is it? Because there's a few of them.
I'm trying to remember.
It's off of Lamar, right?
It's the main one. It's the main one.
It's just a Goodwill, it's not a Computer Works or anything.
I think it is Computer Works. It's a huge one. Yeah. I want to say Lamar's the street or something.
And you can buy computer like actual.
I shopped it regularly. It's 183 and Cameron, I want to say. It's from the Walmart.
Oh,
That's on Clock Tower Drive.
see, each Goodwill is like very local and specific. Like San Marcos, for example, they auction off every video game thing. It's usually like triple what I would actually pay for it. But if you go to that computer bookstore, cheap.
See, I think the major problem is the popularity of YouTube has made collecting harder. YouTube, eBay, and Craigslist are ruining every gamer's universe right now. Like, I hate SOPA, but if SOPA would have gotten rid of eBay and YouTube and made me be able to buy games cheap again, that's a joke though. Nobody hold that against me. But yeah, YouTube popularity.
Consider yourself blamed on the internet.
Yeah, this goes by. 4chan invasion.
What I was saying though is YouTube's gaming channels have picked up, like there's a gajillions of them, it's saturated, and everybody on there is talking about games that are rare, and retail stores like Game Over are paying attention to stuff like that. I mean, for example, they had the Myriad 6-in-1 there a couple months ago, and that was $999 price there.
That's like the one time we were at a comic shop over in Houston that was closing down, and they had a sealed copy of Cheetah Man 2. They wanted $1,000 for it.
I would have bought it. Cheetah Man for only $1,000, I would have bought it. I bet you on eBay it's more than that right now.
I think it's something better to do with $1,000 and buy Cheetah Man 2.
Cheetah Man
I would love to have gotten to that.
2. Cheetah Man 2 is so rare that not even, everybody knows Pat Daniels Punk has Nintendo World Championships. That's one game that he doesn't even have is Cheetah Man 2.
That's not that kind of collector, Ryan. See, he wants to like own the whole.
Every
collection.
single one. I don't
just want
care.
the certain games I actually think are good.
I just traded one of my doubles of Ninja Gaiden 2 for Fisher Price Firehouse Rescue the other day, just because I didn't have it.
No, I'm the same way with Sega.
Oh my
Sega,
god.
Such a good everyone there, so I think you
Did you guys?
No, just
Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden 2.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
But, anybody have any questions or any stories that they might have about their collecting or any comments, anything?
Yeah, like what kind of games do you guys collect?
I played like all the retro games.
The old RPGs I used to play.
Actually, I got a good one. I was actually
Working design?
from Houston. I actually went to a place called Trader's Village.
Yeah, I
and
love
they
working
actually had a
design games,
whole
the
like bunch of
boxes.
Sega stuff and Nintendo stuff on the wall. And I saw back there they actually had a copy of the Daytona USA Circuit Champion Edition back there. And so I looked at it and then I opened it up on the inside. And it's like, let me take a look at it. It's like, oh, please be that link. Please be that link. Please be that link edition. It's like, yeah, I want this. How much is it? It's like, oh, $7.
This was Trader Village here or in Houston?
No, it was in Houston.
See,
I got
I,
Circuit Champion Edition net for $7.
I don't know if anybody's been to the Trader's Village here in town, but there's 2 stores there that I wouldn't recommend. I'm not trying to dog anybody that's selling games or anything, but when you're selling Barbie on the NES for $18, you think you'd want to make some money once in a while. I mean, you got to be careful. Like if it's a popular flea market, more than likely you got to get there early because a lot of the vendors there, they'll buy that stuff. And if you go on a Sunday, everything that was there, most of the markets open on Wednesday here in town, and all the stuff that's good comes in on Wednesday, right when they open. Those guys have it down to a science. They've been doing it for years. Like there's some guys that have been doing it for 20. They'll buy it, mark it up, and sell it. So it's getting tricky because everybody knows that retro games are demanding it. Like it used to be easy to find Nintendo and Atari games everywhere you went. Like I remember going to Texas Thrift on the corner of Nacogdoches and Thousand Oaks and seeing Atari stuff every day. Any other comments?
She mentioned working design games. For those who don't know what working design was, because the company's no longer around, they specialize specifically in taking Japanese titles and purposely releasing them in smaller print runs than you would find from like Nintendo publishing something. And they would cover it up in this really nice box and put inserts and little cloth maps and all kinds of knickknacks. Like one of them for Lufia, the 2 released for the PS1. They had like little figurines and stuff like that was in there. And they would do that purposely to generate interest in the product. And I always like to get those ones because they do really retain their value. Like some of them, I think they sell for like 300, 500. If they've never been opened, it's ridiculous.
You think about video games that are starting up on Kickstarter. They have, they have the physical boxes now, but they're going to be pretty limited. Are those going to retain their value?
I imagine that they will if the game itself like really takes off and has a lot of nostalgia value.
There was a new Super Nintendo game that was just made recently, right?
They're doing like Wasteland 2. They're making a Wasteland 2.
Double Fine.
Double Fine Adventure. A couple others. But they're doing physical box releases. Really limited.
That's cool. I think that's actually like a good thing. I mean, those are startup companies that they're working hard to make games, and any new ideas that need to be out there. There's not many new original ideas anymore. If they could pop them out, I'm all for supporting independent game makers and stuff. I saw a hand almost go up right
Yes,
there.
there's a hand right there.
What if you're looking to sell one of your collected items?
Don't use Amazon. Use eBay. I wouldn't trade in. This is gonna sound, like I hate local industry here, but definitely sell them on eBay. You'll get a lot more interest. You'll get a lot more people that are willing to pay more money. If you try to do a trade in a store, you're not going to get as much. The type of games that I would trade in are the ones that are hard to sell on eBay, which is the ones that kind of suck. But like if you have for example, like Dot Hack or something, or any Final Fantasy title, you can easily eBay that and get at least double or triple what you would get at a trade-in somewhere. Sometimes, in some cases, it's even more.
I actually had a couple of bad experiences with trading. I thought, for some reason I keep getting Ninja Gaiden 2s, every couple months. I'm like, oh, Ninja Gaiden, I can make at least 8, maybe 5 trading that in. and Karate Kid this and DuckTales here, and this guy, and this guy's like 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, $1 for that, this and that. And I know as soon as I walk out, he's gonna mark them up to like 12 each. And
there's also some fan sites built around specific titles, like for example, Earthbound, Mother series. There's a site called Earthbound Central, and like they devote their entire site pretty much just finding stuff people are selling on Earthbound, selling on eBay that is related to Earthbound, and that drives up the prices of that stuff. So you can actually put your listing out there and then send them the link to it, and then you'll probably get it sold.
yeah, I would probably do that. Maybe find, like, if it's a popular game that you have that you want to trade, just find a forum that's all about that game and say, hey guys, I got this game for sale.
Yeah, there's a couple different forums specifically for doing that.
A good one is Nintendo Age or like Atari Age. Those guys are all about collecting. So if you have anything that you want to trade, buy or sell, I recommend going like Nintendo Age, Atari Age, anything that has an age at the end of it.
Gives it a little bit of pizzazz to the website.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Age.
Any other questions? Anything to input?
Another thing that that you got to be careful of that I see a lot is some games, like let's say for example somebody like you mentioned the condition of Earthbound. For some reason, some people that sell games, a lot of places I've noticed, they don't even kind of clean it. Like when they buy it, you'll see like dust, or the label will have stickers on games. Like, pardon my French, piss me off bad. Like like you see the GameStop stickers. That's always like the stupid 99-cent price, but then this store has like $6.99 on there, and then on the back you see like a Be Kind Rewind, and you're like, it's not even a VHS tape.
It's getting even worse than that. There's a lot of people now making dupes where they download the ROM, they overwrite a cartridge, and they put their own little label over it and stuff, and they sell it as if it is that game. And the only way you would know is if you opened it up and actually had the knowledge to identify that was not an Earthbound card.
So yeah, the big thing is
that is one drawback with eBay now.
Condition of the game. You got to be careful about the condition of the game if you buy it, because lots of times I have many experiences where I buy something off of eBay and then I get it and there's marker all over the freaking game, and or the worst is when you can see that they like practically used like something to dig in the cartridge and put their initial like on the side, like especially Super Nintendo cartridges. You see that a lot. Like the little part you see like J-A-Y or Smith or something, and it's just poor Super Nintendo cart, you know what I mean? And for some reason Super Nintendo cartridges are starting to get a lot more pricier than most other systems. And I guess that's because, that system's the one that's in demand now, but you always gotta check the condition. That's what I learned. Especially with CD games, you gotta be careful, because one time I got like a couple GameCube games from Blockbuster even. You think they would have at least a buffer machine, and you can't even get past the title screen on them.
Is everybody pretty much just like interested in console games? Nobody's interested in like arcade games, arcade cabinets?
Boo!
Boo!
I want to meet whoever collects arcade machines. I would go to their house every day. I would go to their house every day.
I used to have a lot of arcade cabinets.
On that note, there's a place in Austin I go to called Pinballs, and they're selling the arcade machines like I could get DDR for like $4,000. I mean, if I was to get an arcade,
I wouldn't pay for it now. No.
I actually saw a Play Choice 10 on Craigslist like a couple weeks ago, and it was only $400, and I was like, well, that's one paycheck. I could live without, lights for a while. And I thought about it, but you got to be wary on Craigslist too. I had one bad experience on Craigslist. It was, if it looks too good to be true, go somewhere where the guy can plug in what you're gonna buy. Because I bought it in television, and it had all box games. There was easily about 20 box of television games with it. He only charged me $40, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take it. He met me at an HEB parking lot, and the second I got home, tried to plug it in, controller didn't work. Then I'm like, I'm gonna tear it up, clean it out, fix that. Maybe I'll switch. I had 2 televisions, by the way, so I switched the other controls, and none of it worked. Texted the guy, hey, nothing's working. Can I meet up with you? Never heard anything again. So you gotta be careful of that. Sometimes you take big hits to the head, big hits, and it sucks, because that could have been spent on something else like Earthbound or Musha or
You already have a movie.
DuckTales 2 or something.
So do you think 4,000 is too much for a DDR?
It is
Yes.
now. It is now. It is.
Yeah.
Nobody's really playing DDR anymore, so it's kind of hard to justify that cost. And there's so many of those machines now.
I think for any machine, 4,000 is too much, to be
It
honest.
depends.
I
The
would.
rare ones. There are some rare arcade cameras.
Well, in your opinion, what would be a fair price for a DDR and arcade machine?
I'm not an
Now-
expert in that field, but
Okay.
I personally, if I was like gonna open up an arcade or something, I wouldn't pay more than maybe $500-600.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really look at like how often is someone gonna play DDR now?
You gotta think
That's
maintenance-
true.
You gotta think maintenance too. You know, like what
Yeah,
conditions
they're
it
expensive to
has.
maintain.
Electricity bills. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's why I didn't buy one.
I was just thinking, what was the machine that ate my money the most often that I couldn't stop?
Simpsons Arcade.
Yeah.
I couldn't get past the freaking stupid Krusty the Clown balloon. I couldn't get past that
I'm
one.
partial to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade.
Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade too.
X-Men.
X-Men.
Yeah.
X-Men, yeah.
Children of the Atom.
Yes, still could be out too.
But yeah, as I mentioned, you gotta watch how you will and deal because there's a lot of shady stuff
I
out
was gonna
there.
say definitely look at the wiring on the cabinet before you buy it, and there's some lot of really good stuff that people have done.
Sometimes you'll find a good deal though. I want to say San Antonio's Craigslist is getting kind of bad. eBay at times, off and on, depending on. Sometimes you'll find good buy it now options, but sometimes you'll find good. I found a decent auction for a Virtual Boy the other day. I know in town, a Virtual Boy, barely complete is usually everybody tries to say 75 to 100, and I found one with 4 games for about 100, and I just went ahead and got that because the people here are selling without a game usually, so 4 games.
You guys collect import games too?
I actually have a Famicom and I have a few games like Holy Diver, Final Fantasy 2 and 3. Sometimes it's actually better, depending on the system. I know Sega Master System games, sometimes it's cheaper to buy the European version of it than to actually buy the one in America. For example, Sonic the Hedgehog on the Master System costs more if you get the US version than if you got the European one. And it's exactly the same, just the label on the actual box is different, on the back where the UPC code is. That's the only difference. It's exactly the same, because Master System's region free, I believe, and you can play them anywhere. I mean, there's even games in Brazil that are exclusive that you can buy for pretty cheap.
Speaking of which, have you ever seen the Duke Nukem Mega Drive game that was made in Brazil?
No, I have not.
It's official. It's eye-opening.
Dang, it's nice.
You have a question, ma'am?
Yeah, so there's a place to go get import consoles. Back at Videogame, I managed to acquire a copy of Xenosaga Freaks, and I like to play it, but I'm not willing to mod either of my PS2s. I have one of the original ones from 2001, and I bought a second Slimline to maintain my collection. I have over 50 games for it, and I just don't want to.
There are dealers at a lot of conventions that sell that stuff.
I'd rather get
but you
any,
can also.
I'd like to maybe dabble a little bit in some import games.
I recommend, if you want to look for import consoles, check Austin's Craigslist, because that's where I got my Famicom complete for $30.
That's kind of
Local places.
No.
Famicom.
Famicom easily everywhere I've seen it in town, they're selling it for 75 or more. Austin's, think about it, Austin's a college town, so you got people from all over coming. Yeah, military.
I'm not here in San Antonio.
Yeah, check Austin and Houston's Craigslist. And I mean, yeah, you might have to find a way to pick it up. No, I've seen some good deals from Houston's Craigslist.
You can find everything on eBay, but it depends what you want to pay. Right, you can find anything online. There's better places to buy than others. eBay is a good go-to place. You can also find deals, but there are various dealers who do import stuff themselves, and then they don't have to pay for shipping and stuff, so they'll sell it a little bit cheaper. So.
Unfortunately, everywhere, he lives in Kyle in the Austin area, so you probably shop at different places. But everywhere I've seen in town, as far as import consoles go, they sell them overpriced, in my opinion. But then again, I'm always looking for the cheapest way to get anything. That's how I am. I'm a cheap gamer. I'm a broke college kid.
I'm not, so I'm willing, if I can
Oh, wow.
spare
Nice.
my console.
I am getting there.
You know, I'm living my love, so I did my dues.
Make sure you consider the difference in electrical output too.
Oh yeah, Japan uses a lower.
Mhm.
Well, we're 120, I think they're 110.
There's converters.
Yeah, you need a converter like one.
And the right television.
Yeah, it's like, it might be PAL, yeah, that's right.
Oh no, Japan is
Oh,
NTSC.
Japan
is
It's
NTSC.
NTSC.
Right, but it's
Yeah,
European.
I know, I have a DVD player that converts PAL to NTSC from
Nice.
the British
Yep.
Doctor Who's.
You got trouble with HD television. Any other questions?
Your opinion about these recently portables, like there's one that's called the Super Nintendo Boy. It sounds ridiculous.
You're talking about the
Like,
consoles that have chips that are portable?
Yeah, the portable like devices that have plastic cartridges that play like games like Super Mario World.
Oh yeah, I actually had a bad experience with those. Is the Power Joy 3?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a bad experience with that, and it took me a while to get Google to let me refund it back.
Like it didn't work legitimately as you would hope it would.
It doesn't use the same patents that a Nintendo console would use because they're still in effect. So what they do is they emulate it with a microchip, whereas there would be actual bigger circuit boards and stuff, the hardware. They kind of do decent, depends which one you use, but in general they emulate the video and the audio fairly well, but there are minor differences. But for portability, I mean, you can't really, carry around a Super Nintendo or something. So.
There are a couple handheld systems like the FC Mobile 2. I have one of those that plays NES games, and it even has 2 wireless controllers and a zapper that you can use. It's like infrared, and you can plug an AV cable into the TV, and it works pretty well. But yeah, those bootleg handhelds and stuff like that, it's hit or miss when it comes to most of them because a lot of them aren't even made the same, and they're not all Power Joy 3s are made exactly the same. Some are defective straight out of the box. You just gotta be careful.
Would you say that would affect your business because of that?
Actually, those aren't even really supposed to be sold anywhere. Actually, I saw somewhere that somebody got sued for distributing them. Actually, like a few years ago, those are actually usually you see those only at flea markets and swap meets and stuff like that.
Some of the patents are expired, some of them aren't. So it depends.
Was that a question back there, or okay?
No, that's different.
What was that?
Have you ever dealt with an issue where you bought a game like online or something like that and it turned out to be a repro? Have you ever
Yes.
dealt with
I have a copy of Azure Dreams, which is not Azure Dreams. It's red something. It's that little red devil from Ghost and Goblins.
that? Oh, Firebrand.
Yeah, something like I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah.
But it
Demon's
says
Crest.
Azure Dreams on it. It's not.
See, that's like, I'm trying to get a copy of Mega Man the Wily Wars. And then you look online and there's so many different versions of it. Even the ones that say, that glue that say Mega Drive and however, even I can't trust that because they've gotten so good. And I'm afraid I'm going to pump $100+ and get a repro.
That is one of the advantages of shopping locally. You can
Yeah.
actually look at the thing and see what it looks like rather than just get I bought some Slayer's anime DVDs a couple years back, and they had the image looked legit, not what I received.
Been there.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
I haven't had that happen to me yet. Escott guy.
I heard that some companies are making underground NES games for the classic NES system. Is that true?
Yes, there are.
Yeah, there's homebrew. Yeah, there's homebrew NES games, homebrew Atari games. Even there's like an Atari Halo game that's being sold online. Yeah, homebrew is actually another.
It's actually made by a bunch of
Yeah,
a
there's.
few other guys got together and made it, and actually just moved cartridges at a
Yeah.
convention.
Yeah, homebrew games are a thing that's picking up too, and actually a lot of people are actually starting to get into the collecting of homebrews and hacks and mods and things of that nature, and I find that pretty tricky because while those are rare, it's hard to put a price on them. I mean, obviously you're probably going to spend a retail price to get a homebrew game because that person that made the game is going to want,
What I do think is interesting is that a lot of these cases they're not manufacturing new carts. What they're doing is they're taking existing carts, finding one that has the same memory specifications as the game that they want to make, and then overwriting the data. In a lot of these cases, they're sports games because they're basically worthless in a lot of cases, which is kind of interesting because that's reducing the amount of sports games.
Eventually, those are going to be rare to find. You can find those dime a dozen right now, but imagine 20 years from now, even five years from now, you know, you're not
I don't
going
know
to
if there's
find.
that much production of the homebrew scale, but yeah, eventually it could be.
Do they have any problems with Nintendo, telling them anything about licensing issues?
I don't think so because they don't enforce it.
Yeah, I think as long as it's homebrew, I think it's
Oddly
okay.
enough, Nintendo doesn't seem to care.
I think the only thing they worry about is illegal emulation of their games that
Yeah.
they still have copyright
Because they
for.
want to re-release it and do the virtual console stuff.
Yeah.
So when people are spreading the ROMs and duplicating stuff, it kind of eats into that.
They're trying to get rid of that with this SNES emulators online, but they still do it.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know much in that field, but I'd assume that it's hard to police all of that.
Also, one of their main concerns when they were really hard on licensing cards and fighting on official stuff is because they were really afraid of the video game market crashing again because of a swamp of crappy games. Even the crappiest NES game that got released officially was a lot better than some of the really mediocre, like Atari 2600 games, and that allowed the market to recover. That's not really concerned anymore because they're not interested in selling the NES and the Super NES and so forth. They're worried on the current generation of games. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably gonna go back to that pawn shop and get more stuff from them. I think a Wii Fit for $39.99 is a fair deal, or should I negotiate that lower?
I don't play Wii Fit.
Pawn shops are kind of hard to negotiate. Usually, maybe you have to buy like more than just one thing. I wouldn't pay. Maybe 40 is okay for a Wii Fit. Nice Goomba bag. I don't know. Probably. Maybe it'd be cheaper if you bought the game separate and then found the Wii Fit board separate too. I don't know. Look into that.
Okay. What would you say about buying like old school consoles from a cons? Because I purchased an NES today. What would you say to that? It is very clean, and I'm pretty sure they put a new settings you can collector.
Yeah, that's probably your best bet. I mean, even though it's a little bit more pricier, at least you know the thing works.
Yeah.
And usually maybe the guy that you bought it from has like a warranty
And
too.
with an NES, it's a big deal because a lot of the pins can very easily go bad. They don't sit just right in there, and the lockout chip doesn't get neutralized. That's the big problem. Like people like blowing in it. It can have nothing to do with that. Really. It has to do with the lockout chip. If you nudge the cartridge just a little bit, it'll finally make that connection and the game will play.
I'm a freaking Nintendo freak. I opened mine, gutted it, and clipped that little NES chip, the fourth pin, and now it just never flips.
It's just like in the dealer's room just now. I bought the Game Gear from one of the guys that was like limited edition red Game Gear, and he told me, it's like, hey, sometimes you gotta jiggle the cartridge or something like that for it to work. And he gave me batteries. I'm like, oh well, he gave me batteries. I'll just test it right now. He's like, see if it works, and it works. So sometimes you gotta do it. Sometimes you gotta.
Question I have is on that game, there's a one called Super Mario All Stars for the Super NES. A while back, they also had the Super Mario World along with Super Mario All Stars in the same cartridge.
Yeah, there was.
Do they work?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that was an official release actually that was bundled with an NES when they sold them. I actually had one of those when I was a kid. That was the greatest that I
because I wasn't sure if it was a scam where they
No, it's
not.
just put them together and they say, here you go.
They actually, like when first, the Super Nintendo came with Super Mario World, once Super Mario All-Stars went out, they bundled it together with the Super Nintendo like that.
They have a wrap Star Fox in the Videogame also.
Yeah. A lot of times I know that the not-for-resale games, like if you have like a not-for-resale on the cartridge, some people really get into collecting those. I've heard people claim that the Sonic the Hedgehog that says not for resale is considered rarer than one that doesn't. But that's the other thing with collecting games is you hear a lot of hearsay from retailers or other people, and sources for old games are hard to find. I mean, you never really know exactly what makes a game rare. Like how we were saying earlier with Final Fantasy VII, it was a greatest hits. That means there's thousands of copies out there, but it's considered rare. Why is that? the deal. You know what I mean? Like, where's the source that states that?
There's certain websites that they determine how rare a game is, how often it's being sold on Amazon and eBay, which is one way to make an estimate, but I don't think it's the most efficient way to figure it out. The most efficient way to figure it out is to ask, for certain cartridges like Sega, not so much, but Nintendo, they had to officially approve, like they told developers basically how many copies they were going to produce. And they know, but they don't really want to tell anybody for some reason. I'm trying very hard to find the data from there.
Yeah, we were actually trying to research about Flintstone's Surprise at Dinosaur Peak.
Yeah, this is a game that was part of the Blockbuster like exclusive rental releases, and like it's assumed to be fairly rare. And I guess compared to like most distributed games that were meant for commercial release, it probably is. But how many really exist? I mean, Blockbuster is a huge national chain. If you could think there was at least one in every store, that's easily a couple, hundred, if not thousand. So we don't really know. We just know how often it's appearing on eBay.
Yeah, so that's part of where like my advice as far as collecting goes is try to just get the best deal as possible. Don't always settle for the first price that somebody gives you. Think of it if you're in your position. If you were selling that game, you would offer this price, but you really wanted, like say I'm saying, okay, $60 for this, but I really want 40 for it. You know what I mean? Always wheel and deal, because it's starting to get a little tricky because of the demand.
Yeah, so demand's driving a lot of the prices right now. There's some rare games, like if you look at the PC market, a lot of the early PC releases were shareware stuff, so you got your trial version, then you had to actually mail away for the full version. That's way smaller crit runs than for the console market, but they're not worth as much. You're lucky for some of them to get $1. So it's primarily based upon demand. Like Earthbound, for example. Earthbound is not a rare game. It's a high-end demand game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of why I wish I never sold my stuff as a kid. I mean, the people that did the same thing, I mean, what was like one of the rarest things that y'all got rid of that you wish you still had?
My entire stack. I'm still trying to rebuild that.
I had
It's hard to do it affordably.
mine wasn't a game, but it was, I don't know if y'all have seen it around, but it's like the Nintendo microwave looking cart. Like it's like a wheel, like a wooden shelf storage thing. I had one of those when I was a kid, and I got rid of it, and now like every time I see it on eBay, it's like $600. The little wooden storage shelf. I wish I never got rid of that.
I had the plastic like cup lid grid thing. It was like a tray, and you could put games on the side and controllers, and there was a black lid that went over the top of it.
Yeah, and all that stuff is like, you find it on eBay, and it's like, man, I had that as a kid, and I wrote on it, and put stickers on it. And
My mom let me put my Voltron in the bathtub. I mean, I'm really ticked at her for that.
I have never sold a single game.
oh wow, how big's your collection?
In the hundreds.
What's the rarest game you have, or what do you consider the rarest?
One of my prizes is Suikoden 2.
It's a good game.
I have a lot of old Square Enix RPGs. In fact, I have all of them.
Congratulations.
I think I know whose house we're all going to go play games at next.
That's like never sold my parents' house in Pennsylvania. So.
You need to make sure they still have one. I had a friend who actually had a Virtual Boy, and he went all the way to his parents' house, rummaged through the attic, the garage, everything, and it turns out his sister had it. She was in college at Austin, and he went over there and was like, give me my Virtual Boy back. And he's like, why did you take it without asking me?
I went over to his house today, earlier this morning. He's got a Virtual Boy sitting there. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, yes. I'm like, how much did you pay for that?
It's a piece of history.
How much did you pay for that?
I already said earlier in the panel.
Oh, you did?
Burn your eyes out by the
It's ridiculous.
You don't play it. You put it on your shelf and you admire it.
I play like 10 minutes. That's like I'm actually a big Sega collector for over 20 years. I have like over 300 Genesis games. My rarest one I think is either Alien Soldier. I actually have a copy of the import Alien. Well, they're both imports. Like Alien Soldier and Nightmare Circus.
Do you have Musha?
Yes, I have Musha.
I have Musha
I got
too.
a Game Over right here in town.
Oh yeah? Yeah, Musha is pretty pricey. That's one that I didn't even know until I looked.
That's probably that's probably like for you.
About $250 to $300 on eBay. Sometimes even just for a loose cart.
Crazy.
I hate loose Genesis cartridges.
Yes.
There's no excuse for that.
Man, you get a high five.
Yeah, don't let anybody sell you a loose Genesis cartridge for too much, because that's crap.
questions or input? Anybody?
Oh yeah. I got the original one.
As far as Sega games go, I like to collect Master System games. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Master System, but I think it was. I'm an NES guy, but I think the Master System was way better than the NES.
Alright, I got a good one for you then. Do you have it's the official text with Street Fighter 2 of course, Master System?
No, I do not.
You don't have it?
I didn't even know there was one.
Look it up.
I heard there's a Mortal Kombat 2 on the Master System too.
There is, and there's a Virtual Fighter animation. I think it's important.
A lot of those are from Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Master System survived for a long time in Brazil.
Yeah, so Sega's still kicking or is there
I don't know if they still are, but I know they did for a lot longer than everywhere
It's
else.
like that Duke Nukem that I was talking about. Like, man, this is crazy.
There's so many instances for $45 in the videos.
You can probably get cheaper at Goodwill I was mentioning.
That's not terrible.
If you shop around, like the ones at the Goodwill, the problem is that you don't know if they work or not.
If you get a Genesis, get a Gen 2.
So there can be advantages to buying something you know works. Even if you pay a little bit more than you would somewhere else, then you're not sure if it works.
You get the side.
So like your collection, like what do you do for nostalgia or fun, or like what got you into collecting?
Nostalgia and fun. I missed out on the generation to separate Nintendo 64 is where I started.
Yeah.
But I like to go back to the older games because I prefer a lot of them. Super Mario is like, I hate Call of Duty.
Thank you.
I like the
You're welcome.
So everybody here is basically collecting mostly for nostalgia, right? Yeah, we got to make sure we keep the collecting in line, and everybody that's causing the demand to be high, tell them, hey, don't ruin the fun for us. It looks like the next panel people are starting to come in, or everybody likes us.
Everybody likes us. We got,
You guys are cool.
we got
Hey, be sure to check out our YouTube. Mine's easy to remember. My username is Messy Video Game Nerd.
I can make it even easier. I have a website, which anybody familiar with like Giant Bomb, for example?
Yeah.
Okay. Those who don't know what Giant Bomb is, it's kind of like imagine Kotaku merged with Wikipedia. They have like their own internal game database. I have my own site that we're in the beta release of right now, and it's aimed specifically at RPGs. But Eric is also on there. The address is rpgfanatic.net. If you type RPG Fanatic, it's probably the first thing that's going to pop up.
My .com's the8bitericshow.com, so you go there. That's where you can find us. We put out content all the time. I've already recorded a ton of stuff for this. What's up?
Are you guys located here?
I live in San Antonio, and
I used to live in San Antonio. Now I live out toward Austin.
I mean I'm out and about all the time. I'm probably gonna check out the Art Slam that's later on tonight. I'll be over there. Huh? Messy Video Game Nerd. But go to the 8bitericshow.com too, and it has all my.
Or just type RPG Fanatic. Like he's in the featured contributors section.
Yeah.
I got a direct link to his website in the blog section.
Yeah, well, we appreciate y'all coming out. If y'all have any more questions or comments or anything, or you want to talk to us on the side if y'all are shy or something like that. I like talking games with anybody any day, and I'll trade, collect, buy, sell, anything,
Now, thanks for coming, guys. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thanks.
Have a great time collecting games out there.
Yeah, good luck, and if y'all do find us on the net, message us if you find any games, or if you make your own video responses or something. We'll give you a shout out or something like that. Or if y'all want to go game hunting, I'll freaking go.
Yeah, you find some real cool ones now. We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook as well, the RPG Fanatic.
I'll trade you. Well, I have the Escott fan page on my Facebook. Thanks, guys.